pro-democracy campaigners and protesters have activated outside of government headquarters in Hong Kong. They've occupied several major thoroughfares in Hong Kong. They are protesting against the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress decision on proposed electoral reform, which of course means that it would allow only Beijing-vetted candidates to stand in the city's elections for chief executive. Now, chief executive is the top civil position in Hong Kong. And the demonstrators who have been on the streets, including students, including people from all walks of life, have been all over the streets of Hong Kong's financial center. They've been blocking traffic on key highways after clashes with police left 40 people injured. And Lewis, this is a pretty basic and fundamental complaint, which is if the candidates have to be vetted by Beijing, then this is not really true democracy. It is a sort of faux democracy, democracy within the very specific boundaries that have been set by Beijing, and this cannot stand. And Lewis, these protests, although it seemed that they were starting to kind of subside, have resurfaced with significant passion, and it's not clear when this is going to end.
I think the only thing we can compare it to that happened in this country recently, I guess, would be Wall Street, right? Would be the Wall Street protests, Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy Wall Street, more recently the Flood Wall Street protests.
Right, but still not nearly the size of what we're seeing here. And it's very interesting to see the sheer number of people who are out protesting here. And
there are many people in Hong Kong who, remembering that under British rule, they enjoyed considerable political freedom, they're fearing a rollback of the city's political autonomy, which was agreed between Britain and China under the Basic Law, which serves as a kind of de facto constitution. It was written in the lead up to the 1997 turnover of sovereignty. And C.Y. Lung said at a news conference on Sunday afternoon that this is absolutely not a limitation of democracy, appealing to pro-democracy protesters to participate in rational discussions via legal means. And the protesters just saying, well, C.Y. Lung is part of the problem here. This is not democracy. Imagine if in the U.S., we had to choose only between candidates that were authorized by the Supreme Court, for example. Of course, Lewis, though, we have to remember, if we step back for a second, we do have a problem in the U.S., which is that to be a major and viable candidate for presidential, the national election, you've already essentially been vetted by some pretty big organizations, right? I mean, it's a different thing, but we still have the same issue here in the United States.
Of course, you have to be vetted by GE and by big telecom companies,
and by the Republican and Democratic national committees, right?
Oh, that's the biggest one. That's the biggest problem. Yeah. So it's really not too different. It's just that here it seems that government is guilty of what we're talking about, not these big corporations who have their influence everywhere.